In this video, I'm going to be going through a process of showing you about the retopology tools, the auto retopology tools I'm talking about. And to demonstrate this, I'm going to be using this free model that comes with ZBrush from Nix. And this would be ideal scenario, but if you could imagine that this can be any model right at this point, you could apply an auto retopology on a model like this already brought into ZBrush. You don't have to subdivide it, you don't have to convert it to any other mesh type. You can just go ahead and do it right now. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it through the scenario where I'm going to apply a Dynamesh to this model, which is going to create a really evenly distributed mesh for sculpting. But then I want to somehow get this into a low polygon model and still have the detail later on in the sculpting layers. So that's what I'm going to show you right now. So one thing I haven't touched about too much in ZBrush is about the way things visually look in ZBrush as opposed to you know, the materials, etc. So what I'm going to do is just quickly select a different material type, and the left hand side you can click here and you've got a variety of materials in here that you can choose from. In addition to these materials, you've got loads of materials you can download for free from pixelogic.com, and you've also got the ability to use what's called matte cap technology within ZBrush, and it basically is a method to capture a surface detail or type of surface detail from any picture that you bring in there. So you could actually replicate a particular surface. I'm not going to go into that. I'm going to click and select something very basic, the matte cap grey. That's something I like to use quite a lot. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert this mesh, which is quite low polygon, into a Dynamesh. First of all, I'm going to subdivide this a few times. I'm going to delete any lower subdivisional history. I'm going to make sure that this is quite a high dense mesh. And now I'm going to also take it to the next stage of going to the geometry tab, and we're going to be using Dynamesh. Up that resolution a little bit and take the blur off and Dynamesh it. This mesh has got layers. I just want to delete these. I don't even need these. Okay, so we're in Dynamesh now. Let's just do some really basic sculpting on this. I'm trying to run you through a scenario now, so I'm not going to go into too much depth. So we've got this basic model. Turn the symmetry on with the X key. I'm just going to build up a little bit of volume there. I'm not going to do anything major on this. I'm certainly not going to make it into a tutorial for sculpting. I'm using the clay build-up brush. Let's just give this guy a bit more muscle definition. And I'm just going to smooth it over with the shift key held down. Okay, that's just develop this abdominal area a little bit more. Okay. This is something that you can obviously sculpt in any sculpting application. All I'm trying to get across here is just I want to keep and retain this detail in a low polygon mesh. That's really all I want to show. So I'm just quickly just going through this process of just adding a little bit of extra muscle definition to this guy. I've turned the symmetry off because abdominals are not symmetrical. Very rarely we'll see that. Okay, let's just build up this mass. Give him a little bit more obliques. Nothing really major here. The serratus anterior I'm going to be putting in a minute. Just making some quick gestural sculpting in here. Certainly not doing anything anatomically totally correct here, that's for sure. I've got the external obliques. Okay, that will do. Just got something basic added in there that we can kind of see a bit later on. Yeah. Not gone on to town with that too much, I don't think. I want to get this detail, although there's not a huge amount of it there. I want to get this detail put into a low polygon mesh. This mesh is quite high polygon, and in fact what I'm going to do is I'm going to even give it more polygons. Let's go to a Dynamesh, increase the resolution, control key, drag outside, and now it's actually give it more polygons. You can see when I smooth it now, it really has done that. Okay, that'll do. What I want is I want two meshes. I've got this high polygon mesh that I've got right here now, and in our subtool menu we've got other subtools. I don't want these for this particular demonstration. I'm going to delete these. I'm going to duplicate this mesh so that I've got the original high polygon mesh, and I'm going to convert the duplication into a low polygon mesh, in which we're going to be applying our retopology. So for the retopology, it's all done within the Z-remesher. Now you can, if you want to, just make sure that you've got your symmetry turned on, so it's going to make it symmetrical, and then just choose your target polygon count, and then it will just do it to the kind of forms on the surface. There are other options. One of the other options is you've got a topological brush in here, a topology brush, and what you can do with this is you can tell ZBrush the kind of direction you want the flow to go. So as an example here, let's just select this again. That's the one, and I'm just going to tell it I want the flow to go that way. So we want the ribs to have a slightly different flow. You can continue this from the last point all the way around to the back. So as an example here, I may want to carry on this flow to go around to the scapular area. You get what I'm talking about here. You can tell ZBrush the kind of flow that you want to happen. Let's just go down for the middle here. Let's quickly go down. Exactly the same, you know, like for the neck area, you may want to go in there and tell ZBrush the general flow you want it to keep to. And I'm going to go around the eyes, around the mouth. I'm doing this very quick so you can get an idea. So this is auto retopology with a directive flow, so you've got a bit more control. You can actually use this topological brush to actually create the geometry in between these spans if you wanted to, although it's not very intuitive in my opinion. I'm going to just go to the elbow area. I want a nice loop around there, at least there. Same for there. I'm just dragging off the edge. Again, these These tools I think could be made better. I hope ZBrush works on these topological tools. There's certainly nothing compared with TopoGun, nothing compared with Modo's inbuilt topology tools. So that wasn't too clever, was it? And there's certainly nowhere near as good as 3D Coat's topological tools. But I'm just putting them in here just so you can see them at work. So we can tell ZBrush to follow this as a general rule, to follow it, and you can adjust this by the curve strength as to how much influence it's actually going to have on that flow we've chosen. You can also do is you can choose the adaptive size. If you hold down the control key, it tells you what it actually does. It puts more emphasis on particular areas of more detail, so it will create more polygons in that area. You've also got the ability to paint in, use paint, and what this will do is it will actually tell ZBrush. It would help if I wasn't in the topological brush. Use a standard brush for this. In this mode, what it does is it will enable you to paint in density of an area, and the darker the red, the more density it's going to put in the area. So I'm just quickly showing you this. Okay, and it's going to use this. Let's say for instance you wanted a little bit more density when it came to, in fact you adjust the color density from here, not from the palette where I'm just doing it there, and then you can say, do you know what, I want a bit of priority to these fingers because they do need more topology and more polygons. So that's what that is for. You may want to create more density for specific loops, and it all aids in creating a better auto topology. I'm just doing this for a quick example there. Finally, I'm just going to go to the target polygon count. I want it to be quite low. Click on Z Mesh, making sure that my X symmetry is on. Click on Z Mesh, and it's now going to convert this to a retopologized model. Now if I turn on the polygon frame, you can see here that it's clearly followed the flow that I asked it to around the ribs, around the chest. It's done a pretty decent job. I certainly wouldn't say that this is like animation ready, but it's certainly what I would call sculpt ready to take to the next level. Because so far we've been doing sculpting on a very high polygon mesh. In this particular case, I want the ability to work on a low polygon mesh. You can see here, even in my slapdash kind of painting, it's kind of given a little bit of priority to the eyes and the mouth. It just makes it a little bit more easier. Although I've had much better results than this, I have to tell you from the off bat that definitely had much better results than this. So now that we've got this lower polygon mesh, what we can do is we can actually subdivide it a few times. And what we can do with this is we can project our high polygon detail version, which is just above it there. It's turned the visibility off at the moment. You see there it is. And we can project it. And for the sake of purposes, I just want to see the projection and not the high polygon mesh. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just turn solo on so that we can just see our low polygon mesh as it happens. And from the subtool menu, we've got project, and I'm just going to click on project once. And you see there that the detail has been added to our low polygon model that's been subdivided. Let's just subdivide that again and project again. A general rule of thumb when you're doing this is you kind of work from the low sub-D level, project it, and then keep on projecting as you work your way up, and it does it quicker. Now that I've done this, I can go ahead and delete my original high polygon mesh. You can see here it's very high polygon. And if I go down to this one now, you can see here that it's actually got all of the details in there. When I'm on solo mode, you can see I'm jumping between the high polygon mesh, this is this one, and the low polygon mesh projection is this one. The difference is that this low polygon mesh has actually got low polygon topology. If I just go down the sub-D levels, you can see here this is much more workable to continue do our sculpting. You can go from there, and it's going to be easy now to grab this move topological tool and start to work on this model even more, add in a little bit more mass. Maybe you want him to be a bit more of a monster kind of figure, and it's ideal to go down to low polygon meshes when you're working on these kind of things, like volume. Really bulk him out. And as you go up to the higher sub-D levels, you can see here that we've got the sculpting details that we had. And this would be a good point now to take you on to the next stage in the next video. So we've done some auto retopology. And what I'm going to do is, before I'm going to produce any maps or anything like that, because I've been talking about brushes and stuff like that, I'm going to head off into 3D Coat, and I'm going to do a comparison on the same mesh to get a kind of idea of how the brush strokes feel with my Wacom tablet, the Intuos 4. Now, I must say from the offset, this is not me saying X against Y, ZBrush against Mudbox, or in this particular case 3D Coat. It's just my feel and personal opinion of how the brush strokes feel when I'm working between ZBrush and the other application in question. That's all this is going to be about on the next chapter. Okay, just how brush strokes feel, how it responds.